Here's an article, brothers and sisters, on the spread across to 89 cruise ships, prompting a U.S., you know which department this is, CDC, investigation into ships. And most of these ships have had a run-in time with the authorities in terms of what's going on board. I was on a cruise ship called the Quantum of the Seas back in 2020 in January, and we had an amazing time. But I can tell you, these ships are traps for passengers, and especially now, and for a very, very long time, the U.S. government and governments worldwide have had a really big problem with cruise ships and cruise ship companies because they seem to be beholden unto themselves. They don't fall in line with much of the land law that happens in each one of these countries. The minute you're 2 miles out, you fall under international law and under maritime law precepts. And they keep adjusting it. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 6 miles. But in general, worldwide, these ship companies, these big passenger cruise liners, are pretty much in control over their own destinies, and they don't like this, but they're also now turning these to their advantage. So what they do is they find ways of trapping passengers on board these big cruise liners, and once they get involved, they're in, and they basically test everybody with those long, elongated, clue-like sticks, which basically are indentations of the what we call biblically the mark of the beast. However, these major cruising companies, which once upon a time, like Disney, Royal, Caribbean, Norwegian, Viking Cruises, and others, these companies were at one stage wonderful playtime, sources of entertainment destinations in the middle of the ocean, and here they are now, places where people are trapped, where passengers going on these trips suddenly find themselves in a rhetoric with officials having to figure out ways that they can avoid being nasal poked. And it's scary. It's very, very scary. And I remember one of the things that I felt when I was on board these cruise line ships, and I could be reading this article right now from time.com, but I thought, there's so much to discuss around this, because one of the scary things that I remember was that if you had authorities come up alongside you on these ships, you were pretty much stuck. You had to, especially if you were docked somewhere in Thailand or Singapore or on one of the many islands in and around that coastal area all the way leading to India, is that people were basically at the beck and call, the mercies of these government regimes, and and the way they looked at you when you were going in and out, while they checked and they held onto your passports and they checked you out, and it was just pretty intense. I felt it was very intense, and it normally happens on this bottom part of the boat here. They have these migration stations. You don't know that until you're actually on board one of these ships. But right here in this lower hold area of these massive ships, you find yourself having to address all kinds of health related in and out issues. So, yeah, I thought I'd bring this out. In terms of the article, it says the U.S. Centers for DCNP identified 89 cruise ships with the certification of, abomination, ID, 19 cases on Tuesday, nearly all of which have met the threshold for a formal investigation. And when you look at what's going on in terms of this guy, the Omicron variant, it really does trigger an increasing concern, both for those looking to get on board these ships and corral you into small little areas and start to test you. This is why one of the reasons why you would not be traveling right now worldwide. I used to travel a lot, having traveled to 29 countries plus. And as I said recently, 2020 January, and being out in the oceans and the Andaman Straits, which was a lot of fun. But I must tell you, know what I now know, considering what's been happening in terms of the cruise line industry, I wouldn't be traveling. Now's not a good time to travel. And I know a lot of people do. A lot of people still attempt to port their way to new countries, but I can tell you it's extremely scary, and these places are traps. And again, you can read from what Blumenthal says in one of his tweets. Time for the Center for Control, Control, and cruise lines to protect consumers, and again pause docking their ships. Can you see where this is going? Roger Frizzle, a spokesperson for Carnival, said in an email that health safety protocols put into place have proven to be effective time and time again over the past year, with our sailings being restarted. Now, these guys are desperate for new bookings. They are desperate for new business, and they'll do just about anything. They'll fall into line with whatever government tells them just to keep these cabins sold. Of the 86 cruise ships under investigation, Carnival, as one of them, operates 32. Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited operates 25. They got their own island, by the way. And Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings operates 15. 4 ships operated by the Walt Disney Company, their cruise line, are now also under watch, according to their website, the CD website. The list is rapidly changing, and the next stage for ships with outbreaks could involve taking additional measures into consideration. Health and safety is the cruise industry's highest priority, said Barry Golan Blugrand, a spokesperson for the Cruise Lines International Association trade group. These guys are all just hopping and skipping to the beat of whatever these authorities are telling them to do. And as I said, the whole world has opened up over the last, what the Bible talks to be the time of the set aside time, the time for choice to be made, the choice being whether you are to take the abomination or not. So everything is being opened up, set aside for this choice to be implemented upon the earth. Shares of cruise operators rebounded Tuesday, along with the travel sector, as on 12:35 p.m. New York time, Carnival was up 1.2%. Royal Caribbean gained 0.4%, and Norwegian was little changed. Of the three, only Royal Caribbean shares have had positive returns this year, and they have significantly trailed the broader market, up less than 6% year-to-date compared to a 27% gain in the S&P 500 index. What is this telling you? It's telling you that the industry is reeling. They're hemorrhaging at the moment. They're not doing well. But, government is saying, hey, toe the line with us by letting us board your ships and begin to test people ad hoc and do whatever we want to do, because people are in a state of relaxation. They're in a state of, they're entrapped inside these great big ships, right? They arrive at a port, and they're at the mercy of whatever country's authorities come on board to check them out. So not a good time to travel. If you're considering to travel, please be careful. They've done this in China, actually. They've done this in various countries around the world, where what they do is, if you're in the middle of finding yourself entertained, say at Disney World or whatever theme park or event is going on, and it's got 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people, they basically shut it off and they encircle it, and they begin to test everybody with these tests. It's quite a thing, and obviously nobody can leave. You're stuck. You can't go home unless you've actually had this prod all the way up your nasal pharynx, and it's not good. It's not good. It's a scary situation for so many people right now worldwide. And brothers and sisters, I keep saying this, Christ is coming, and he is upon us soon. We will be caught up and taken off of this earth. And I know that the rapture sounds to many like pie in the sky, excuse the pun, that we're all going to suddenly be caught up and find ourselves rescued when the rest of the world has to go through what the world goes through. But it's very much part and parcel of the belief and faith system that we have. We're told that if we are kept from the temptation, if we keep ourselves from the temptation, Jesus will keep us from the hour of trial that's to come upon the earth. And again, many denominational churches believe that it's not referring to the rapture. Don't get caught up. Don't get too excited. It's you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck. Going through the tough times that are here upon the earth. Over all of history, everyone has gone through tribulation and trials. Why would we, this last generation, be the ones that get saved, especially being a generation that seems to be so unrefined and a generation that seems to be so spoiled, lovers of self, but again, we always have to consider two facts. One is that it's about the DNA, the fact that our DNA is under subterfuge, it's under attack, the fact that that DNA potentially is one of the reasons why God had to cut the day short, otherwise no flesh would be spared. And the only way to do that really is to pluck his jewels out of the face of the earth and place them in his jewel bag. But then also, again, the fig tree generation, which I hear some of the people online talk about, does not exist, they say. But it does. It still remains to be it is still a thing. Remember, we're still very much inside of that last period of time by virtue of strength. A generation, 80 years minus 7 years of tribulation brings us to 2021. We're still inside the fig tree generation period right up until the 14th of May 2022. So knowing God to be the God who arrives and shows up at the minute before midnight, I'm assuming that he's keeping that option right up until the 13th of May, 11:59 p.m. So there's still a ways to go, but I genuinely can't see how much worse it's going to potentially get, because worldwide we're seeing protests, we're seeing youngsters in 3-year-olds now that are being abominated, and it's starting to look a little bit scary. But as I said, don't panic. God is coming for us. If you haven't read John Wolford's book on the Rapture, and this is a book that has over 1,000 reasons why the rapture is a doctrine that is verifiable biblically. I've actually produced a program on the John Wolford book, and I will be airing that very, very soon. The other thing, which is also really worth noting, is that Andy Woods has got 60-something hours on the rapture. And as you go deeply into the rapture there, you will see that there's more than enough evidence for a legitimate and real rapture occurring. There's another program that we have produced, which we will be uploading very soon, and I cannot wait for you to see this program. It's a program that comes from 16 other books, texts, and information, including interlinear studies of the Bible that relates to the rapture, and I can't wait to show you that, because again, there's a lot of proof that the rapture is at hand. Okay, brothers and sisters, it's time to go, but I just wanted to wish you all the very best for the new year, and talk to you soon.